At my engagement banquet, my cousin pretended to be drunk and forced herself to drink all of poison. She cried, begging me to let her borrow my fiancé for just one night. I called upon the young master from the Calum family, who had always been fond of her, to help. But when my cousin woke up and realized it wasn't Nero by her side, she broke down in despair and shame, ultimately taking her own life. Nero didn't blame me. He treated me as he always had. I felt a heavy guilt toward my cousin and took care of my aunt's family after her death. But on my wedding day, Nero had me poised and unabandoned among beggars. Lilith suffered just as painfully back then. Now use your worthless body to atone for her. He said on my wedding night, I was violated to death to lives lost in one body. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the moment my cousin was tearfully begging me to let her have Nero for that one night. At my engagement banquet, my cousin pretended to be drunk and forced herself to swallow a poison. She sobbed, clutching my evening gown, pleading, "Cousin, please, just let my cousin-in-law save me just for one night. Please have mercy." I looked down at her, kneeling by my feet, tears streaming, and sighed. "Lilith, I'm already promised to your cousin-in-law. If you lead too, if this gets out, how will you ever marry?" Nero, standing nearby, sneered with disgust. "I'm your brother-in-law. This behavior is truly disgusting." With that, he kicked Lilith away and pulled me along. Seeing my cousin collapse in agony on the floor, I couldn't help but soften. I arranged for the young master from the Calum family, who had long admired her, to assist. My cousin was already engaged to the Calum, a man of noble character who would never reveal the secret. Calling him was the best protection I could offer her. But when she woke and saw it was Calum by her side instead of Nero, she broke down completely, blaming me for ruining her life and shamefully ended her own. This became a thorn in my heart. I always believed I was the cause of my cousin's death. Afterward, I cared deeply for my aunt's family. Nero, understanding my suffering, helped me care for them as well. Yet on my wedding night, he brought a group of old beggars to assault and kill me. I begged him desperately to spare me. But he looked at me with disgust. "If it weren't for you, I would have flown away with Lilith long ago. It's all your fault. Lilith suffered just as much back then. She's dead now. Use your wretched body to atone for her." It turned out that before our engagement, Nero had already been entangled with Lilith. From a diary Lilith had given him, he learned she was his first love. But what he didn't know was that all the diary's content actually recorded my life. Since childhood, Lilith had envied my birth and had obsessively imitated me to the point of obsession. My style, my speech, even my diary entries. She believed that by copying every part of me, she could replace me. In my past life, I tolerated her because she was my cousin. But in the end, I lost my life. This time I decided to let them be, for I had more important matters to attend to. When the same scene from my past played, I took advantage of changing my dress early to slip away, leaving the stage to Lilith. Just as before, she pretended to be drunk and accidentally drank the love poison. Then let a little sigh. She pushed Calum away and frantically searched for me and Nero. Unable to find me, she knelt down and begged Nero. "Brother-in-law, please. You have to save me. If you don't save me, I'll die. I die." She threatened with her life. Nero's face twisted with disgust. But the servant who came to report said, "Mississippi." Nero said he has something urgent and left, staring at myself in the mirror. I shivered at the memory of my miserable past life. Thankfully, having fully, I had been reborn. This time, I would personally drag them all to hell. Call Calum and tell him I'm concerned about my cousin and want him to help me look for her. I ordered. After the servant left, I began openly searching for Nero, asking everyone anxiously, "Have you seen my fiancé or my cousin?" By the end of the round, everyone at the engagement party knew that Nero and my cousin had both gone missing. Calum grew anxious, saying, "Lilith is a girl. If this gets out, her reputation will be ruined." Then he ordered his men, "Find the young madam at all costs. The crowd scattered, searching everywhere. The gates were almost entirely checked, leaving only Maya and Nero's bridal chamber. Everyone hesitated at the door, unsure whether to enter or retreat. Just then, mad lie, I rushed over in panic. "Have you found Lilith and Nero?" Everyone looked at me silently. We checked everywhere except before the man could finish. I shoved the door open. "Nero, Lilith, are you in there?" The next moment, screams of a woman and a man's angry shouts erupted from inside, frozen at the doorway. I was helpless as everyone behind me witnessed the scene. Nero was sleeping with my fiancé cousin right there at the engagement banquet. My face turned pale as I stared at Nero. "Nero, you." The next second, I fainted. Calum quickly caught me from behind, glaring fiercely at Nero. "Nero, your family better give me an explanation for this, or else I—" He didn't finish. But everyone knew what he meant. The Calum family was on the rise. And even though Calum was only the second son, he was not someone anyone dared to bully. He carried me away. When I woke again, it was already evening. My parents, aunt, and both families were gathered around. Nero's mother immediately came to help me up. "Good child, you're awake." But I avoided her touch and buried my face in my mother's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Anyone seeing me would think I was a heartbroken, pitiful girl. Nero's mother awkwardly withdrew her hand. "Allah, it's already happened. Maybe let your sister be with Nero. Rest assured, the position of lady of the Nero family will always be yours." She then looked at Nero and Lilith behind her. "We need to have Lilith become a concubine. That way no one loses face. And you two sisters can support each other. What do you think?" My father snorted in displeasure. "Your family sure knows how to scheme. You want Tara to marry into your family? Dream on." The Calum family members also looked displeased. How could their not yet official daughter-in-law push to become someone's concubine? If this leaked, where would their family's face be? Lilith, facing the prospect of being demoted from main wife to concubine, was vehemently opposed. She had finally secured Nero and wasn't about to settle for less. Crying uncontrollably in Nero's arms, she gasped. "As long as my sister can forgive Nero, I'm willing to be the lesser. Just please don't let sister be angry with me and Nero." At that moment, it was sobbing uncontrollably beside us. "Allah, if you don't let your sister go, she really will have nowhere to turn but death." "Shut up. Look at the daughter you raised. How dare she do something so disgraceful and still have the nerve to cry here?" Allah's father snapped. He had always been exceptionally tolerant of this elder daughter. No matter what mistakes she made, he would turn a blind eye out of sympathy for their orphan mother. But now, seeing her condone her own daughter's shameful behavior filled him with nothing but humiliation. Nero, watching the woman he loved weep with tears like spring rain, felt a sudden pang of pain. Frowning, he looked at me. "I've already promised to make you my legitimate wife. What else do you want? Are you really going to push Lilith to death and then still not give up?" His words had barely left his mouth when a slap from his father landed hard on his face. "Ungrateful son, shut your mouth. This isn't your place to speak." My father, observing this father-son clash with icy detachment, said coldly, "Don't try to act in unison in front of me. Ar isn't interested in being your family's wife." That slap completely enraged Nero. His eyes blazed as he stared at his father. "This lifetime I'll marry no one but Lilith. If father likes so much, he can marry her himself." Colleen's father, who had been watching the scene unfold, couldn't help but sneer. "So this is the kind of family education you have?" Then he turned to my father. "All's father. See, we're victims here. Why don't we forge a family alliance? What do you say?" My father stared incredulously at Calum's father. "Calum, do you think this is some vegetable market?" Calum's father chuckled. "Hey, don't be so harsh. If this incident gets out, our calm family will be embarrassed, but Elara is the real victim. How's she supposed to marry after this? Just as my father was about to refuse, I spoke up. What's in it for me to ally with her family? Caleb's father's face immediately lit up. He had long disliked Lilith, finding her petty and calculating. If it weren't for his son's feelings, he would never have allowed such a woman in the door. Seeing me willing to listen, he was more than pleased. Elara, I can't speak for all Calum fathers, but here are a few things I can promise. First, the property will be divided. Once you marry, the family shops and land deeds will be notarized immediately. The eldest and second sons get 40% each and the remaining 20% is reserved for us old folks' retirement. Second, he drew the word out to Stephanie, casting a look at Nero before continuing slowly. Our Calum family is all about rules. We wouldn't tolerate scandals like a fiancé rolling around with some cousin or distant relative at an engagement banquet. And last, after marriage, all property must be registered under the wife's name. This statement made everyone gasp in shock. Wasn't that basically handing over the entire family fortune to the bride? The Calum family was clearly generous when it came to marrying in a daughter-in-law. Only Nero's family, Lilith and Aunt, looked as dark as a scorched pundies was nearly a slap in their faces. I quietly nodded after hearing this. Others might question the truth behind those promises. But I knew after Lily's death in the previous life, Caleb had obeyed the family's wishes and married another woman. Though he didn't love her, he treated her with utmost care. All the family property and deeds were under that woman's name. He himself owned nothing. If I could be with someone like him even without love, I wouldn't be harmed. Besides, armed with my knowledge from her birth, I didn't have to rely on any man. Yet, this era was cruel to women. If I didn't marry, father and mother would be mocked behind their backs by everyone. I didn't care what happened to me, but I couldn't drag my parents down with me. All right, I'll consider it. Hearing this, both Calum's father and mother were momentarily stunned before breaking into broad smiles. Meanwhile, Lilith, who had been watching quietly, suddenly lost her composure and glared furiously at Calum's father. What right do you have when you wanted to marry me? You never said this. You clearly said the property would only be 30%. And you never mentioned transferring everything to me. Calum's father frowned at her. Since your engagement to Calum, haven't you enjoyed all the food, clothes, and comforts from her family? I made this decision because I feared you'd squander the estate. Besides, can your background or look even compare to all heiress? So I'm willing to hand over the family fortune. So what? Lilith's face flushed with shame as tears welled up. She looked at Calum pleadingly. Calum, how can you just stand there and watch them bully your fiend key like this? Calum glanced coldly at her. Lilith, you can eat whatever you want, but don't say whatever you want. I'm not your fiancé anymore. Lilith was left speechless, retreating to cry pitifully in Nero's arms. As the two families quickly settled the marriage arrangement in a few words, Nero's expression darkened. He pushed Lilith away angrily and stormed toward me. You're my fiancé. Have you ever considered how I feel hearing you talk about marrying someone else? I raised my eyebrows with a hint of curiosity. Nero, what kind of words are those? Did you ever consider my feelings when you were lying with my cousin at the engagement banquet? Maybe before policing others. You should manage yourself. Nero's face twisted with rage, his complexion shifting between green and white as he pointed at me. Fine, you better not regret this. With that, he grabbed Lilith and stomped out in fury. Before leaving, Lilith glared at me defiantly, mouthing 3 words, I won. Watching her strut away, I couldn't help but smirk slightly. Did she really think the Nero family was some paradise where marrying meant a life of ease? How could Nero ever truly love anyone? If he truly loved Lilith, he would have broken off our engagement before it even began and married her with honor. But he didn't. He had been involved with Lilith for 6 months before our engagement. In 6 months, if he wanted, he had 100 ways to call off the engagement and be with Lilith openly. But he never did. Instead, at our engagement banquet, right under everyone's eyes, he shamelessly carried on with Lilith, bringing her universal scorn. But Lilith was completely unaware. She thought that once she got into Nero's bed, she would become the matriarch of the Nero family. Unfortunately for her, the Nero family was a merchant clan. Merchants price profit over parting ways. This was no mere joke in the Nero family. After everyone had left, my mother took my hand and gently said, "Elara, our family is wealthy and can support you. Why must you insist on marriage?" I glanced at my parents, their temples strewn with gray, and my mind drifted to the last life. Their suppression and eventual decline after my death. This time, I vowed to protect them. "Father, why don't you buy the east suburb Brack?" Though puzzled, he agreed. "All right. As long as my little princess wants it, I'll buy it for you." I smiled at him. "No, this is a gift from your daughter to you." Mother playfully pinched my nose. "Who sends gifts like you do?" I stuck out my tongue. "You'll see soon enough." I arranged a private dinner with Calum. Some things I believed. He needed to know. Sitting across from me, he asked, "Miss Elara, is there something important you wish to discuss today?" I sat down my coffee and looked at him seriously. "I'm joining the revolution." Calum blinked. What did you say?" "I'm joining the revolution." I repeated deliberately, "You must know the situation in the Shao kingdom. Truth be told, the future belongs to the red flag. So, I want to join the revolution and do something for this aging country. I called you here to tell you this. If you mind, I can refuse Calum's father's matchmaking." "I don't mind," he interrupted. "Not only do I not mind, I'll join you." I looked at him, surprised and moved. "But revolution means death." "You." He laughed softly. "Since ancient times, revolutions have always cosplays. I'm not afraid." Then he looked at me. "My father has transferred the family assets into my wife's name, preparing for the worst if one day I'm gone. So, I have long been ready to sacrifice." He told me he never forgot the misery endured by the people under Axia's military control. I always thought the phrase eating one's own children only applied to desperate times, but now I see it unfolding before my eyes. "Elara, do you know what it feels like to hate the suffering in the world but feel utterly powerless to change it?" I met Calum's gaze and nodded solemnly. I understood. He confided in me. "We are promoting a new ideology, a new way of thinking. This will be a difficult and enduring struggle. If you're willing to join us, I can introduce you to my superiors." I smiled and extended my hand. "Then I look forward to your good news, Calum." He grasped my hand firmly. "We eagerly await Miss Elara's joining." After that, our relationship inexplicably grew closer. With his superior's approval, he brought me into their organization. Under Calum's witness, I became one of them. Together we would protect our homeland with our lives. When my parents learned of this, they worried deeply. Mother held my hand. "Elara, it's not that your mother doesn't love the country. But you're my only daughter. I just can't bear to let you go." Her eyes welled with tears. Father turned his head away to secretly wipe his own. I thought they would oppose it. Refuge even. But surprisingly, they agreed. Father said, "It is our honor for you to serve the country. No matter what, we are proud of you." I hugged them tightly. "Father, Mother, I will protect myself. I promise." A week later, I agreed to marry Calum and his father. Calum's father was thrilled personally handling the betrothal gifts. "Hey kid, you don't know, but I've had my eye on Elara for a long time. That girl is a true lady. Well-read and refined. You better treat her well or I won't let you off easily." While Calum and I joked about this, I sat on the garden swing, laughing wildly. "Uncle, why do you like me so much?" Caleb scratched his head bashfully and smiled. "Our ancestors were warriors. Only in my generation did we start studying. So my father hoped my brother and I would marry ladies from scholarly families. Unfortunately, having fulfilledly, my sister-in-law's family was also a warrior's. So, I covered my mouth to laugh. So, uncle, your dream has come true. Caleb nodded. Sort of. I put away my smile and looked at him. And you? He was taken aback. Me? I nodded. What's your dream? Do you regret not marrying Lilith? After a pause, he said, my dream is a peaceful, prosperous nation. As for regrets, not really. I never liked Lilith. I treated her well only because she was my FA. I nodded. That's good. Otherwise, I'd feel guilty. Caleb smiled and looked at me. Miss Sar, you don't need to feel guilty. I'm the lucky one. My mother says I'm lucky to marry you. You should feel lucky to have married me. You've been raised well by your uncle and aunt, I said. Caleb and I found time to take wedding photos. The wedding date was soon set, chosen by Calum's father according to an auspicious day. Deemed lucky. Neither of us cared much about such things. After all, we had our mission. But the elders were busy with excitement. On our wedding day, many dignitaries attended. The ceremony was grand, and Caleb's father bought a small villa next to my parents' house for us. He said, Allah, since you're your parents' only child, they naturally hate to see you leave. Consider this house my ruffle gift to you. You and Calum will live here after marriage. It's convenient for everyone. I accepted the property with a smile. Thank you, Dad. Caleb's father was so pleased hearing me call him Dad that he almost wanted to give me his entire savings. I stopped him. Dad, this is your and Mom's retirement money. How could we take it? My sister-in-law joked from nearby. That's just his style. When I married, he said the same. Wanted to give me his savings. Everyone laughed together. That night, Calum left on a mission. I stayed at home waiting for him. My heart pounding so fiercely it felt lodged in my throat. The very next day, the dreadful news came. He had been arrested and imprisoned. When Lilith heard, she came just to mock me. So what if you married Calum? So what if you're beloved? What's the outcome? Your husband was arrested on his wedding night. I always knew you were a jinx. When Calum dies, you'll be a widow. Slap. I struck Lilith across the face. If you dare say another word, I'll tear your mouth apart. Lilith clutched her cheek. Disbelief written all over her face. You actually hit me? Aren't you afraid the Nero family will come after you? I looked at her with contempt. The Nero family won't pick a fight with the Calum family or the Elara family over a concubine. Indeed, Lilith never became the lady of the Nero family. Nero's parents dismissed her coldly with the saying, engaged as a wife, treated like a concubine. Nero fought with his parents for her, but his father warned him, you're not my only son. If you don't want this inheritance, there are plenty who do. Nero pleaded with his mother only to hear the same words. No matter which son inherits, I remain the unshakable matriarch. If you can't stand on your own, I won't hesitate to adopt another son. That one sentence shouted Nero's last hope. Though his father wasn't a notorious foolander, the family had several concubines. The better children born to them were kept close. Many others were raised under Nero's mother's care. So although Nero was the eldest son of the main house, he wasn't the only son. To secure the family fortune, he had to marry strategically. But after the scandal he caused at his engagement party, few eligible women were willing to marry him. Forced and desperate, he married a daughter of the Valeria family. I heard that daughter was extremely jealous. She kicked Lilith out of the household as soon as she arrived. Lilith cried and begged Nero for support. But Nero dared not oppose the Valeria family and could only make Lilith move out. Lilith's plan failed, seeing me living better than she was. Her resentment drove her to cause trouble for me. I looked at Lilith and said, instead of meddling here, you'd better figure out how to go home and compete with the head matriarch for a man. Lilith was about to attack me when my father-in-law stopped her in my house. If you want to lay a hand on my daughter-in-law, you'd better think I'm dead. My mother-in-law helped me aside to rest. The matter has been handled as you wished. Don't worry, Calum will be back soon. Only then did my heart settle back down. The thing sent out was the horse ranch I had my father purchase. I had intended only to help him make a fortune. After all, in the previous life after I died, Nero had made a fortune with that ranch. I just never expected it would come in handy now. My father-in-law sent people to throw Lilith out. And on their way out, they even told Nero's wife, "Go tell Valeria to keep better control of her servants." Lilith instantly turned pale, losing all composure. She knelt and begged my father-in-law to spare her. He glanced at her and ordered her dragged away. On the streets, a large crowd of students was already organizing protests, demanding the release of patriotic figures led by my husband. I led them holding banners, shouting loudly, "Promote new culture, promote science, free Calum and the patriotic prisoners. Free the patriots and restore peace to Jah." Every word struck deeply. Soon let out a little sigh. Students boycotted classes. Workers went on strike and countless young patriots united. The government tried every means to suppress us. But for everyone who fell, thousands more rose. You can kill my body, but never my thoughts. Truth cannot be destroyed thanks to their efforts. Calum and the others were finally released. The government officials' faces turned dark as one pointed at me. "Allah, do you know what you're doing?" I met his gaze with unwavering resolve. Saving the country. He immediately lost all his strength. Sighing. "This country is already rotten." "No, it's not. Our youth will save the storm-tossed nation." Calum was released without serious injury, likely out of respect for his family name. The others bore wounds of varying severity. While caring for them, I continued spreading the new ideas with the students. The cultural movement blazed on for nearly half a year. The new ideas had taken root so deeply that even the children on the streets knew them. I thought, this is what we have been fighting for. Our efforts were a success. The youth of this society had finally awakened. That year I became pregnant. Everyone thought I would just stay home and rest. But I didn't. I used my identity as a pregnant woman to secretly deliver messages for the movement. I was impressed and repeatedly but released each time during this period. Many were assassinated by the government in defiance of warnings. The people's anger was fully ignited. They fought desperately to overthrow the government. The government, wary of public opinion, dared not openly torture a pregnant woman like me. So they turned their hands against my family. That year, my parents and my in-laws survived countless assassination attempts, each one meant to kill. Not just us, almost every revolutionary family suffered attacks. Caleb and I understood clearly this was the government's warning. They failed to kill us. So they tried to kill our families. Our organization moved our families to the rear for protection. There I gave birth to our first child, Orion. Both Calum and I were very pleased with the name. Orion revitalized Shaw. Cradling little Orion. I taught him new ideas. Taught him patriotism. Orion grew up to live up to our hopes. Becoming an outstanding patriot. In 1931, when foreign enemies invaded, Calum and I threw ourselves into the war without hesitation. On the battlefield, I saw countless compatriots fall and never rise again. Whose sons were they? Whose husbands? Whose fathers? In the rear, I worked with accompanying troops to care for the wounded. I witnessed a 17-year-old life extinguished before my eyes. In his hands was a candy his sister had given him. That candy was treasured in the pocket over this heart, never eaten. I had seen him stare at it longingly when missing home. He said, "The more battles I fight, the less my little sister will suffer." He also asked me, "Elara, when will this war end? I want to see my sister get married." I promised it will end. When it does, you'll watch your sister get married with your own eyes. I never had the heart to tell him his sister had died on another battlefield only 15 years old. Jude, rest easy. When you wake, the Jakku kingdom will be a brand new land, full of endless possibilities. I never expected to see Valeria on the battlefield. She was carried in with her right hand blown to pieces, unconscious, several military doctors, and I rushed to bandage her. Given our limited medical supplies, amputation was the only option. I held her down on the stretcher as a nurse, used a red-hot saw to sever her entire right arm. Valeria awoke from the pain, then passed out again, but never uttered a sound. When she finally regained consciousness, her first words to me were, "I won't be able to fight anymore." Will I? I looked at her empty right arm and tried to reassure her. You can stay in the rear with us. Help save lives. Don't comfort me. She cut me off. Compared to those soldiers who sacrificed everything, I'm the lucky one, aren't I? I lowered my head, silent. Indeed. Compared to them, she was fortunate. Do you know which unit we were fighting against? Valeria suddenly asked. Puppet troops. I replied. Do you know who leads them? I shook my head. My role was in rear support and I knew little of the front lines. Valeria smiled and said something I never expected. Nero. Hearing that name? I stared at her in disbelief. How could it be him? Why him? Valeria looked at me. What's so shocking? The day after the invasion, he defected to the enemy. It took me a long moment to find my voice. And you? Valeria smiled. Riley, since your father-in-law threw Lilith out, Nero and I have been separated. And Lilith, what about her? I wanted to ask how she was surviving alone in this war-ravaged world. Valeria's coughed and interrupted me. You still have the heart to care. It's your husband fighting desperately at the front. Lilith is now the concubine of the invaders. Things are very different now. The last words stopped my breath for a moment. Something in my mind exploded. Lilith became a concubine of the enemy. Does she have her reasons? I asked. Valeria shook her head. No. She willingly crawled into the invader's bed. Otherwise, why do you think Nero holds that small post there at that moment? I nearly lost all speech. How could they betray us? How could their guns be so freely aimed at their own people? Valeria patted me with her remaining left hand. Everyone has their fate. Don't overthink it. I gathered myself and nodded. This is a battlefield. Soldiers are fighting desperately at the front. I have no time for sorrow. One stretcher after another was brought in. We were so busy we barely had time to rest. Valeria helped us soothe the wounded, serve tea, and do what she could. The war lasted a month. When it began, there were 1,500 of us. Fewer than 500 returned. But at least we won. On the day the invaders retreated, Caleb was brought in on a starcher. A bullet had pierced his shoulder, fired by Nero. If he hadn't reacted quickly, it would have hit his heart. He was taken in for surgery, and I waited anxiously beside the curtain. Soon, muffled groans came from behind the screen. A nurse said the bullet was removed, and only recovery remained. My heart finally settled. On the day we returned home, Calum lifted me onto his horse. The war is almost over, he said. Our leader will surely lead us to victory. I nestled in his arms and nodded. Yes, we will win. At our doorstep, my parents anxiously waited with Orion, seeing us safe. Their eyes immediately welled with tears. My father-in-law slapped Caleb's shoulder. Good boy. Finally came home. My mother-in-law and mother clasped my hands, tears streaming. All you've lost weight and looked darker. Or a Don Calum, babbling for a hug. It felt good. Our family was reunited again. 13 years later, the war finally ended in victory. During that time, Calum and I had 2 more children, a son named Julian and a daughter named Nova. Nova was born on the battlefield, which made Calum especially doubting. At that time, the war wasn't as intense. Caleb often played with her, even took her to meetings. The soldiers loved her and always played with her whenever they saw her. I once scolded him for it. But Calum was childlike in his response. "She's the little princess of the Calm family. She'll be the one to fight the invaders someday." The little girl clenched her fists, babbling, "Fight, fight, fight." When I was busy, I left her with Valeria. Valeria grumbled about us not sending the child home, but was unusually gentle in caring for Nova. I had thought about sending Nova home first. I was too busy. Second, comrades begged me to keep her. "I'll let Nova stay with us. We can entertain the kid and pass the time." Since the fighting was not too urgent, then we kept Nova with us. She grew up in the camp and the first word she learned to say was fight. When Nova was 10, the war finally ended. Holding my 2 sons' hands and with Calum carrying our daughter, we witnessed the birth of the new kingdom in the capital. On the city tower stood the soldiers who had braved every hardship. Some had lost feet, some hands, some only their bodies remained. They supported one another, standing together to share the joy of victory. Below, thousands of citizens celebrated the dawn of freedom and peace. Many had lost sons, husbands, fathers. Some families had lost everyone on the battlefield. Now that the war was won, some comrades couldn't even recover a whole body to bury. They remained forever on the battlefield, forever frozen in their prime. Calum, who was injured years ago, now felt pain in his limbs on rainy days. Whenever it rained, our 3 children would immediately massage his arms and legs. After the victory, we invited Valeria to live with us. She stared. "Why died? You 2 are fine. Why drag me into this? I'm not coming." But she couldn't resist when Nova clung to her arm, calling her godmother. When we married, the house our in-laws prepared was destroyed by war. Calum with 2 sons and 2 fathers rebuilt the house. 3 generations of the family were busy with the reconstruction. My father-in-law was a rough, unrefined man who couldn't build houses. His work was all manual labor. He carried heavy timber, grinning widely to reveal his bright white teeth. After being idle for so many years, I finally get to move around again. My mother-in-law came rushing out from the makeshift kitchen, brandishing a large iron ladle, chasing after him. "Cut the nonsense and get back to work. When you're done, you'll chop firewood for me." I stood at the doorway, watching their playful bickering, my eyes misting over how wonderful this felt. I turned around and immediately got scolded by Valeria. "What are you crying for? Women whining all the time." I laughed and teased back. "Oh, yeah. Aren't you a woman, too?" Valeria rolled her eyes at me. "I've got serious business. Nero and Lilith have been arrested. Want to go see them? After all, you're Lilith's only family left." I sighed. "We're sisters. I have to at least visit her." Valeria looked at me thoughtfully. "Your sister is no innocent. I'll come with you." I smirked at her, teasing. "Now you're not calling me a whiny woman." Valeria pouted. "Not arguing with you." I submitted a request to my superiors to visit Lilith and Nero. It was quickly approved and I went with Valeria to the prison to see them. As soon as Lily saw me, she was curled up in a filthy corner of the cell. Her hair tangled and dirty. Her body was covered in grime. When I approached, she immediately straightened up and sneered. "What do you want? Here to mock me?" She brushed off the dirt from her clothes and glanced at Valeria. "Oh, the lady has come to where's your right hand?" Valeria shot her a sharp look. "Enough of your petty tricks trying to make me angry. You're not even worthy." And Valeria scrutinized Lilith up and down instead of worrying about my right hand. "Maybe you should start worrying about yourself." Lilith scoffed at Valeria with disdain. "Worry about myself? What's there to worry about? While you all lived day to day in fear, I was out enjoying life amidst the bright lights and wine. You suffered 13 years of hardship, but I enjoyed 13 years without regrets. I was the prized favorite of the Japanese officers, their commander's beloved. How could you worthless people compared to me? I looked at this crazed woman in front of me and sighed. Valeria had no such sympathy. She sneered and cut off Lilith's fantasies coldly. If you were so favored, why didn't they take you when they retreated? If I truly cared for someone, how could I abandon them to suffer? Don't deceive yourself. You're nothing but their military prostitute used and trampled over by thousands. What's there to be proud of? Lies. I'm the commander's beloved. His second wife. Lilith clung to the bars, shouting hilariously in denial. But Valeria had already pulled me away. When I saw Nero, I was at a loss for words. In my previous life, I truly loved him. This life, I hated him. Nero showed little reaction when he saw me. The first thing he said was, "If I hadn't been with Lilith that day, would you have loved me?" I looked at him with a faint smile after all these years. Is your mind really just full of love and nothing else? Nero seemed ashamed or unwilling to face Valeria. He lowered his head and fell silent. Valeria sighed as she looked at him. We were once married. Though we have no fate, I still pity you. If you hadn't betrayed us, maybe you wouldn't have ended up like this. Everything you suffer today is your own doing. I stared at him, mocking. You fell for Lilith because of a diary. But do you know that diary was copied from mine? So the person you saw through that diary was me. Yet you handed me over to someone else. How does that feel? Painful? It should hurt. Traitors like you deserve a miserable death. One filled with endless agony and regret. Nero looked at me. That's impossible. You're lying. You're lying. Valeria smiled and glanced at him. Whether I'm lying or not. Why don't you ask Lilith? Oh, wait. You probably won't get to see her again. Sorry about that. She raised an eyebrow to staff at Nero. I laughed at Valeria's sharp tongue and pulled her out. As we left, Valeria mocked Nero and complained to me. Why'd you have to come? You made me say more than I wanted. I laughed and interrupted. Enough. We saw them during the visit. Valeria unhappily shook me off and muttered. All that fussing. What kind of image does that give? I poked her. None of your business. Then she leaned close and I asked curiously. But that diary really was yours. Can I take a look? I shoved her away playfully. All that fussing. What kind of image does that give? Valeria's eyes went wide. Hey, don't lie. I didn't pull you. I ignored her and kept walking. Well, then explain why everyone said you were so jealous back then. She hurried to catch up. That was my dad trying to protect me, making up stories. Plus, my temper is bad, so people just exaggerated it. Show me your diary. We're close enough, right? Just let me see. Finally, having fulfilled my sigh, I relented and handed her the diary. She liked to hold it and have Nova read it to her. Day after day, she read it until Nova went for elementary and middle school until she could recite it from memory. Holding the nail-worn diary, she asked Valeria, Godmother, don't you ever get tired of reading this? Valeria adjusted her reading glasses carefully and turned a page. Never, Caleb said with a hint of jealousy. That's my wife's diary. Valeria rolled her eyes at him. Not bothering with you. Years later, Orion and Julian both went off to school. One joined the military. The other went into research. I asked Nova, what do you want to be? Without hesitation, Nova said. A doctor. Years passed. Orion and Julian both settled down and started families, and we began raising grandchildren. Valeria cradled the little one, doing on him like a treasure. Good grandson, you must study hard, be knowledgeable, and well-mannered, just like your grandma. Only then did I realize Valeria didn't truly care about that diary. She just wanted to see what life would be like if she had had the chance to study. Calum still bickered with Valeria, but this time proudly took over the conversation. Of course, my wife is the most learned and well-mannered of all. I laughed and interrupted. All right. All the kids these days are more cultured than me. Later, Valeria had grown too old to quarrel with Calum, and Calum leaned on his cane while me had on reading glasses. We stood by the elementary school gate, watching bright young lives rush out one by one. A grandchild grabbed my leg. "Grandma, today the teacher told us about the war of resistance against the Japanese." I smiled, taking his backpack. "Oh, what did they say?" "They told us about Grandpa leading soldiers into battle. So heroic. I want to lead soldiers too when I grow up." Caleb slapped the back of the boy's head. "You little brat. This prosperous country was fought for by your grandpa and his generation. And now you want to go to war. You must be itching for trouble." The grandson clutched his head, pouting at Valeria, who held him close and complained about Calum to me.